sorts of incidents in childhood which Freud's Freudian psychiatrist could get $50,000 for if I had it, to try and get to it. And it came out, and I didn't manage to remember after sitting going back and forth over whether I was going to make a better commitment or another decision at that time. Simply on the basis that I prayed for God's tenderness to allow a very sore place in my history to come forward, because it was not going to be burdened and I wasn't going to die at the time. And it did. Let go of it. The next day, I didn't procrastinate about anything. The day after, I commenced re-procrastinating about anything.
Okay, thanks. I'm going to say this. I acknowledge that there's a group, but it sounds like kind of a support group for people who completed the fifth step. And as I come around to all three of your studies, each week, every week, I see that there's several people who seem like they're sincere about recovery and who are coming to this book study. And who are on steps 1, 2, 3, 4, like myself now. And it sounds like what you're saying is, talk to other people. And I do what I can of that on my own. If there's enough interest, maybe there would be a need or some benefit to be derived from many of us trying to recover for such a support group involved with steps 1, 2, 3, 4. Just an idea.
Okay. Anybody interested in that? See Fred after the meeting. That's Fred.
Let me get in one last thing, okay? What they say about the stories is this: we are sharing our experience, strength, and hope. Well, another thing you need to share is your lack of experience, your weakness, and your hopelessness. And all this too. And in the vein of what Michael was talking about, where you are being of service to someone when you take on a problem, something which continually comes to mind when I'm doing this sort of a thing is it will make me remember where I was at and where I'm at now. Because it's very easy to get involved in the step of the moment, as it were, and not see how much progress you have actually made and what the program has done for you. You can very easily focus on, I'm doing my fourth step, and it's very difficult, and I'm not worth beans because I'm not done, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then you talk to someone who's still doing their third or their second step, and you realize that you have done those, that is complete. And then you go back and look at your own difficulty in doing those things, and you see your own growth, which is an important thing to see.
Okay, let's go over this one more time so everybody's clear and you know what to do for next week. So go back on page 64, halfway through the bottom paragraph, where it says, in dealing with resentments, we did what? We set them on papers. And now we are beginning to do that. So we're going to make a three-part list. We listed people, institutions, or principles with whom we were what? Angry. Okay, so that's what we need to do this week, is to complete the people list, then complete the institution list, then complete the principles list. Okay? And all you got at that point is a list. Okay? We haven't looked into the list. We haven't done anything with the list at that point. It's just a list. Okay? And now, if you would, go over to the next page underneath the example that you see on page 65. And just want to show you one thing. There's some ideas in Alcoholics Anonymous, where people have come up with easier, softer routes and all that kind of stuff. And people are telling, newcomers, well, just write your 10 biggest resentments, write a history of your life, write this, write that. Okay, so let's look at the first two sentences under the example on page 65. First sentence is, we went back through our lives. Now, does that say write the 10 biggest resentments in your life? Or the things that you think are a problem? No, it says we went back through our lives. What does that mean? Yeah, see, it doesn't say we went back to the first drink. It doesn't say we went back to a traumatic incident. See, it doesn't say anything, that somebody else told us. It says we went back through our lives. What does through mean? All the way, as far as you can remember. Okay? Now, one of the problems here is that some of us have some things, called these blocks, memory blocks and all that. This may be your experience. I don't remember anything before I was 12 years old. I don't remember anything before I was 6 years old. That kind of stuff. If you got that, see, you may have had that all of your life. What did you do in step 3? Who did we turn our will and our life over to in step 3? Okay, so we get to this, don't we, that we need to be thorough about what happens in the memory block. See? We don't have the power to unblock that. What do we need to rely on? God. See, we went back through our lives. Okay? Next sentence. Nothing counted. What does nothing mean? Zip. Nada. Nothing counted but neatness, originality, good spelling, straight lines, and no smudges. Is that what your book says?
No.
Do those things count? No. What counts? Honesty. See, thorough means complete, done through to the end, all the way back to our life. Honesty means what happened to the dice. Got rid of the dice. Okay? We're not going to roll the dice on this. So this list that you're beginning to write, go all the way back through your life. Nothing counts here. Thorough and honesty in terms of people, institutions, and principles. Okay? And then next Sunday we'll pick up on what we're going to do with that list now that it's written. Okay, everybody got that? Great. See you next Sunday. Okay, let's start once again on page 64, last paragraph. Just go over the stuff that we went over last week, and then we'll continue on with the fourth step instruction. Okay, so we're now, the assumption is that we made a decision that we're going to turn our will and our lives over to God as we understand Him. That's our higher power, however we individually see His higher power or believe. And the decision needs to be followed by action. So, see, what's always the evidence that somebody made a decision? What they do begins to change. Okay, so the change in us is going to be what we do is start to follow a clear-cut path. See, and the first part of the clear-cut path is a personal house cleaning. So that's what step 4 is all about. See, most of us, especially when we're new in AA, we look at step 4 as this Mount Everest major kind of a thing. Whoa, can't possibly do that. See, but step 4 is just one step in a 12-step process. See, that's designed to take an unspiritually awakened alcoholic and produce a spiritual awakening. Okay? See, so there's nothing bigger or smaller about step 4 than any of the other steps. Okay? So now that we've decided to do that, we need some clear-cut directions on how to do it. See, how does this thing work? So first thing they tell us at the bottom there is resentment is what? The number 1 offender. Okay, it's not number 5. It doesn't say resentment is a justifiable thing and it ought to be discussed. It says resentment is the number 1 offender. It destroys more alcoholics than anything else. And we've talked a lot about relapse. See, in and out of Alcoholics Anonymous, most of us relapse. See, what's the number 1 offender in most of those relapses if the book is correct? Resentments. It destroys more alcoholics than anything else. So we ask ourselves, see, most of us go to AA meetings and we have our favorite groups and all that. Do you hear a lot of resentment discussed in the groups that you attend? See, people who got them, but don't seem to have a solution for them. See, what's the number 1 offender? See, that's it. Resentment is the number 1 offender. It destroys more alcoholics than anything else. And from it stem all forms of spiritual disease. We've been not only mentally and physically ill, see, that's the body and the mind, the physical allergy to alcohol, and the obsession that exists in the mind. Is everybody clear about that now? And that is a disease. And not only mentally and physically ill, we have been spiritually sick. See, is lack of power a manifestation of a spiritual sickness?
Yeah.
Does that make some sense to you? Okay, so do you see a big connection maybe between resentment and anger and lack of power? See, being cut off from God. And when the spiritual, here's a major promise in the book. See, a lot of people won't even consider this a promise, but I sure do. See, when the spiritual malady is overcome, malady means illness. See, what happens? We straighten out mentally and physically. See, a lot of us are trying to straighten out mentally and physically on our own once we put the plug in the jug. See, and we try to do that by discussing our problems and dealing with our feelings and all that sort of stuff. But if you remember the example that we saw at the end of chapter 2, that guy who went over and spent a year with Carl Jung, see, and he got mentally and physically well and went out and got drunk. See, so he straightened himself out, he thought, see, and what happened? He relapsed. Okay, see, so the main problem here is that this spiritual malady has to be overcome, and that's what we're working on here. When the spiritual malady is overcome, we straighten out mentally and physically. In dealing with resentments, what did we do? First of the clear-cut directions. We set them on paper. Okay? It doesn't say we thought them over, we talked to our sponsor about them, or any of that kind of stuff. See, we're going to set it on paper. Okay? So now we know that we need a pen and a notebook. Okay? Now, how do we set it on paper? See, we list it. Everybody know what a list is? Everybody remember the definition of the word inventory from last week? A written list. So we listed 3 things. First is people, second one is institutions, and the third is principles with whom we were what? Angry. So there's not an instruction here to make a list of your resentments, is there? There's an instruction here, see, or a direction to make a list of the things in our lives up to this point, see, that we have been angry at or with. See, not resentful. So in order to do that, we had to look at the definition of the word anger and how anger manifests itself in our lives. See, what are all the ways a person can direct this strong feeling of displeasure towards somebody else? So we listed people, institutions, or principles with whom we were angry. Right now, has everybody completed your 4-step list, or at least made a good start on it? See, because that's where we left off last week. See, and now we are going to take that list that we have on paper and we're going to begin to look at that. Okay, so the next sentence is, we ask ourselves why we were angry. Okay, so first you have to make this list and admit that you're angry. People that don't admit they're angry don't get free of their anger. Okay, so now we got all this stuff on the list, and now we begin to say, why do I have all these things on my list? Why am I this pissed off? See? Well, that assumes that we have admitted that we're pretty pissed off, doesn't it? Okay. So we asked ourselves why we were angry, all right? Now, most of us have a number of reasons, right? Remember the God of Reason from chapter 4? Have you always had reasons why you're angry? See, I have. We asked ourselves why we were angry. All right, now, the list of reasons we've always had, has that ever solved the problem of anger in your life? See, what you know up to this point, that ever make the anger go away? That ever get rid of it? See, somebody asks me why I'm angry, I'm, it's Charlie, and it's Charles, and it's Modesta, and that's my mom, and it's this, and it's that. See, and they walk away, and I'm still pissed. See, so I always thought I knew about my anger, but the fact is, there it is all on a piece of paper. See, and I still have it. See, and maybe I have to begin to admit to myself that I really don't know why I've got all this anger. See, I always thought I knew why I had it. Have you always thought you knew why you had it? List of reasons? Okay. Do you still have it? See, so we're not looking for things that we know. See, we're looking for things that we don't know. Okay. So we asked ourselves why we were angry. In most cases, it was found. Now, in order to find something, what do you have to do? In order to discover something, what do you have to do?
Look.
You got to look. See, you got to take a look. Okay, so it was in most cases, it was found that our self-esteem, our pocketbooks, our ambitions, our personal relationships, including sex, were what or what? Hurt or threat. Okay, if somebody slaps you across the face, that hurts, right? What do you feel? Pain. Okay, so hurt has to do with pain. Okay, somebody pulls a gun and says, give me your car keys and your wallet, that's a threat. What do you feel or experience when that occurs? Fear. Okay, so in in most cases, what have they found underneath all the anger in their life? Pain and fear. Okay. Something in them, see, was either hurt or they felt fear. Okay. Are you open-minded to that? It's pretty simple. Okay, so we were sore. The word sore means angry. See, we were burned up. See, burned up translates into I'm pissed here. The world pisses me off. My life pisses me off. AA pisses me off. Sobriety pisses me off. All these things that piss me off. Okay, so are you open-minded to beginning to look at that? If you are, grab your people list, see, that you have started making. Just take a look at that list of people and ask yourself. See, it's not too hard to see. See, have all of the people on this list either hurt me, see, or threatened me somehow? Okay, just look at the list. Okay, are you open-minded? Could that be true? All these people either hurt me or threaten me somehow. At the moment, I'm not really sure how, see, but does that seem clear to you? It's not, see, this is nothing deeply psychological and weird, and, we're not talking about passive aggression, see, we're not talking about paranoid schizophrenia or any of that. See, we're looking at our own anger, have all the people on the list either hurt me or threaten me somehow. Okay, so on our grudge list, see, so the assumption is we did what? We made a list of the people we were angry at, and they're now calling that the grudge list. We said opposite each name our what? What do injuries do? When you're injured, what do you feel? Pain. See, so what they did, see, that caused this pain. Okay, and was it our self-esteem, our security, our ambitions, our personal or sex relations, which had been what? Interfered with. Everybody know what interfere means? What's it mean? If I decide that I'm going to walk out the door, yeah, interfere with me, Charles. I'm going out the door. Watch this guy interfere with me. What did he just do? He got in my way. He stopped me from doing something I wanted to do, something I was planning to do. He just interfered. So what am I? I'm pissed at him. But he's bigger than me, so I got to go piss on him. Okay? See, and I'm going to walk away that son of a bitch. Okay? See, so we're beginning to look at this list of anger in our lives and ask ourselves if that hasn't happened. See, have they interfered, see, with my life in some way? See, and these are some specific ways. What are they? Self-esteem, security, ambitions, personal relations, sex relations, see, and also we're going to find pride. Somebody got in the way, see, and hurt me in those areas of my life. Okay? So was it our self-esteem, our security, our ambitions, our personal or sex relations which had been interfered with? See, so look at the list of people. Ask yourself, is it pretty plain to you that all these people have somehow interfered in your life? Got in the way somehow. You might not be clear how yet, see, but does that make sense to you? Okay, so we're beginning to look into our own anger. Okay, then it says we were usually as definite as this example. Now, what does the word definite mean to you?
Sure.
Hmm?
Sure.
Sure? Okay. What else?
Specific.
Specific. Yeah, precise. Exact. See? Certain. See? All that kind of stuff. See? So we're not interested in theories and reasons and all that. See? So we want to be specific and definite, see, when we start looking at why we're angry at these people. Okay, so everybody get a clean piece of paper. So you draw 2 lines on it so that you have 3 columns and label the columns just like the example you see on page 65. First column is I'm resentful at. Second column is called the cause. See, the cause means my reasons, see, for being pissed. And the third column is affects mine. I'm resentful at the cause and affects mine. people are willing to do the steps and they get some instructions about, wow, write your life history. Write the history of your life up till now. You know, I was born in 1945. My parents loved each other. My parents hated each other. You know, kids liked me. Kids didn't like me. I went to school. See, all that kind of stuff. So that's not what we're looking for here. See, we are looking for very specific things. Okay. So if you've done it that way before, see if you're open-minded to just like getting rid of all those ideas, and see if you're open-minded to following the directions here, because this is called How It Works, okay? And what's everything else called?
How it doesn't work.
How it doesn't work, right? Okay, this is how it works. Okay, so if you would, take first name off your people list and put it in column 1. I'm resentful at. Write that first name in column 1. And let's go back to the example on page 65, second column. See? He says, I'm resentful at Mr. Brown. Now, where did the name Mr. Brown come from? Off of the list of people he's been angry at. He puts that in column 1. Goes over to the cause column. Let's see what it doesn't say. Let's see how it doesn't work. I've known Mr. Brown for 26 years. He and I were in the service together. He's a veteran, so am I. We dated the same girl when we were 18 years old. He's 6'3". He's got brown hair. We drank a lot. He was lots of fun. We ended up working at the same aerospace company for, 19 years. So you don't see any of that kind of stuff in column 2, do you? See, what do we see in column 2? 3 very specific facts. See, what kind of process is this? Fact finding and fact facing. Okay, so all we're trying to do here is to find out simply the facts, not the details of anything. See, the facts about why we are angry at the people and the institutions and the principles on our list. Okay, here come 3 facts. Number 1, his attention to my wife. Okay, now, Mr. Brown, not Mr. Brown, but the guy or the woman, whoever wrote this example, see, they know what that sentence means, but we don't know what it means. Okay, see, there could be 10 different stories behind that particular statement. See, this guy may have walked into a kitchen, see, at an employee party or something, and found Mr. Brown patting his wife on the butt. That could be what that means. Or this guy may have found out that Mr. Brown and his wife have been getting it on in a motel across town for the last 6 months. See, it could also mean that. It could also mean a bunch of other things. See, but the person who wrote the inventory knows what that means. See, but we don't see all of the details, see, the entire story that goes on behind that particular statement. See, but do you think there is a story behind that statement? Okay, so he just wrote down the facts. See, 1 fact, see, about why he is hurt or threatened by Mr. Brown. Okay, number 2, told my wife of my mistress. This would piss off anybody. I've been narked off. Okay? And number 3, see, this one isn't even real. This is something he's making up in his mind. Brown may get my job at the office. See? It hasn't even happened. It's not really a fact, but it's a fact to him. He's pissed about it. This guy is definitely a threat. See? And those are the 3 facts or reasons, see, the cause of his anger at Mr. Brown. That's it. See? Without any of the details and the whatabouts and the why-fors and how tall they are and how long it's gone on and see, that kind of stuff, just 3 facts. Okay, once the 3 facts are down in column 2, we go over to column 3. So go back to fact number 1 is attention to my wife. See? Well, this affects what? His sex relations. See? With who? His wife. See, he's angry now. Affects his self-esteem. See, what is self-esteem? That's how we think of ourselves and our beliefs about ourselves. And what we think is true and what we think is false. Okay, so here's Mr. Brown doing this deal with his wife, see, and he has to admit to himself, see, that underneath his anger, it really scares him. See, there is fear. So he put the fear in the parentheses. Okay, fact number 2, he told my wife of my mistress. You think that would affect sex relations? Okay. Let's think about that. See, here he is cheating on his wife. See, so he's getting it across town with his mistress and at home. So now Brown narks him off. See, so what does his wife make him do immediately? Get rid of the mistress. And then what does his wife do? Cuts him off at home. Think that affects his sex relations? You bet. Pretty big time. Think he'd be pissed about it? Yeah. Okay, and his self-esteem. See, well, I was running this act. I'm the loyal, faithful husband that would never cheat on anybody, and I'm this and I'm that. See, and suddenly I'm an adulterer, I'm busted, I'm dishonest, now, all this stuff about me is known. See, my wife knows it. See, Brown knows it. Who are they going to tell? Fear. Okay, number 3, Brown may get my job at the office. See, so Brown just works there, apparently. See, and he may or may not get promoted. What does it affect in this guy? It affects his security. Pretty clear? See, once again, we see self-esteem. See, you ever get threatened that way? You feel fear? See, so what we notice under each of these causes, see, here, column 2 is what the injury was. See, how his feelings got hurt or his life got interfered with. See, number 3 is what part of his life, see, got affected. See, and in each case we find fear. Okay, so there's pain and there's fear underneath all of the various resentments. Okay, let's go to Mrs. Jones. All right, Mrs. Jones is probably the downstairs neighbor or the next door neighbor. See, so notice what they did. They took the facts and just kind of ran them together here instead of listing them separately like with Mr. Brown. So she's a nut, she snubbed me, she committed her husband for drinking, see, so he's now in Charter Hospital. He got intervened on. Okay, he's my friend and she's a gossip. How does this affect this guy? See, it affects his personal relationship with who? Well, probably with Mrs. Jones, that's pretty clear. See, I hate that old bag. Okay, but who else might it affect? You think it might affect any other personal relationships? His friend Charlie Jones is now in Charter Hospital, undergoing alcoholism treatment. Does that affect his relationship with Charlie Jones? If Mrs. Jones is the gossip and says to my wife what she just did to Mr. Jones, is that going to affect my relationship with my wife? See, so there's another personal relationship that could be involved here. Okay, once again, self-esteem. Okay? I drink more than old Charlie does. Look what happened to him. See? He's now labeled an alcoholic. I don't want to be an alcoholic. Okay? Think there's any fear involved in that kind of stuff? See? Noticing that, these terrible things can begin to happen in our lives. We're kind of out of control. Fear. Okay. I'm resentful at my employer. Anybody in here ever been mad at a boss? Could you apply those first 3 words to that boss? Unreasonable, unjust, overbearing. I think that's pretty universal for us alcoholics. Unreasonable, unjust, overbearing. Threatens, see? Hurt or threaten. You ever been threatened? See? You ever had a wife threaten you with divorce, a husband threaten you with leaving, a boss threaten you with being fired, children threaten you with running away, see? All kinds of, somebody threatens to kick your ass, all that kind of stuff. See? Threatens to fire me for drinking and padding my expense account. Okay, well, that's pretty unjust, unreasonable, and overbearing of him, isn't it? Okay, now what gets affected in this guy? See, his self-esteem, once again. His security. I could get fired, lose my paycheck. Okay. Fear, underneath. Okay. Everybody seeing how simple this is? All we're doing is looking at each of our resentments. We're putting down what the facts are, see, and then how we got affected by what happened, see, in column 2. Okay, and the last one in the example is my wife. See, it could be my husband. Misunderstands and nags. What do all Al-Anons do? Misunderstand and nag. Is that pretty universal truth? Okay. You ever felt misunderstood and nagged at? Yeah. Okay. Likes Brown. Here. See? Wants a house put in her name. It's called an ominous warning. Go over to column 3. What's the first word you see? Pride. Okay, now we didn't see pride in the sentence up above the example, but here it is in column 3. See, so now there are 7 things that we see on the page that we want to use in column 3. And they are pride, self-esteem, personal relations, sex relations, ambitions, security, and fear in parentheses. Those are the terms that get used in column 3. See? We want to avoid making up our own column 3. See? See, we don't want to see words like envy and jealousy and all that kind of stuff in there. See, guilt doesn't go in there. See, and what you'll find is if you're pretty clear that you had envy and jealousy and guilt and all those kind of things, they all fit in one of these 7 things that they've given us there. See, so all you need to do is look at that, see, and use the terms that are given as part of the example here.
Are those on the bottom right here, the ones that you mentioned?
Yeah.
7 things?
Yeah, there are 5 of them there, plus 2 in column 3 in the example. See, the 2 in column 3 in the example that aren't in that sentence are fear and pride. Okay, so that gives you a total of 7 things. Everybody clear about that? Now, I have some sheets up here that we can pass out. These may or may not help you. If they confuse you, just throw them away or give it to somebody else. Okay? These are not definitions of those 7 things. These are ways that you can use to look at the 7 things to see how you are affected. See? The stuff on this sheet helps some people and it confuses others. So if you find yourself getting confused by what you see on the sheet, just give the sheet back and don't worry about it. What I'd like to suggest to everybody in the room is before you start doing this 3-column inventory, take those 7 things from column 3, go to a good dictionary. See, find the definition of the word pride, copy it out on a piece of paper. Find the definition of self-esteem, copy it out on a piece of paper. Put the definition, all of the definitions, ambition, security, relations. See, find out exactly, precisely what those things mean. Have it on a piece of paper with you, see, so that you can be real clear and honest with yourself in column 3. All right? And the sheet I just gave you, see, is not the definitions. They are just ways that you can start to look, see, at how these things affect your life. See, and how people interfering with them, see, could cause fear and anger. See, so once again, if the stuff on that sheet confuses you, just get rid of it. I don't want that to get in your way.
I done it.
Okay, everybody get a sheet? Everybody throw them away that doesn't want them? Okay. Okay, let's look at the example again on page 65. We notice that we are usually as definite as this example. Okay, does everybody understand now by going through that? See what we're looking, we're not looking for deep psychological, see, kinds of stuff. All we're trying to do in each and every case is to put down the facts, why we're angry, column 2. Okay, column 3, how we were affected, see, by what happened in column 2. And we want to let go of all other ideas we had about why we're screwed up and why our lives don't work and all that kind of stuff. So this is the beginning of a house cleaning process, and this is literally how we are going to learn how resentment operates in our life. Okay, so does that seem like pretty simple to you? See, maybe too simple, couldn't possibly work? Don't we need to read 17 books explaining how dysfunctional things are? You know, no. See, we don't need to do that. All we want to do is follow these simple directions. Okay, so everybody understand that? Okay, now have name number 1 in column 1 on your piece of paper, right? Go to column 2, write down the facts. Why are you angry at that person? Whoever that person is. Now, see, if it's someone who is very important or powerful in your life, like a mom or a dad or a husband or something, you might have more than 3 facts. See, that's okay. So just put down as many facts as you need to put down. See, but what you'll notice, if you end up with a whole column full of facts, you'll probably see that you're repeating yourself already. Okay? See, if you're angry at somebody because they lie, for example, or they break promises, anybody ever been resentful about stuff like that? Okay, so you don't have to write down every promise they ever broke, every lie they ever told. Just all you need to write is they lie. See? He breaks promises. That's it. And what you'll notice by writing down the facts, see, if you're being honest with yourself and relying on a higher power, is that the picture, see, of the problem with that human being begins to appear in your mind just by writing it down. Okay, see, and it is the stuff in that picture that you're going to talk about in step 5. Okay, see, so, what you're writing down on this piece of paper, see, is simply the skeleton, see, of a 5th step. Okay, without all of the details and all that kind of stuff. We're just looking for facts. This is fact-finding and fact-facing process. Okay, so everybody put name number 1 in column 1, and then fill out column 2. Why am I angry at this human being? What did they do that interfered with me? Just put down the facts. As we get into this part of the inventory, there is a temptation for a lot of us to exclude stuff because we think we dealt with it at some other point. Stuff like, childhood issues, molestation, abuse of all kinds, all that sort of stuff. See, put those in column 2. See, if somebody molested you, put they molested me. See, if somebody beat you up when you were a kid, put they beat me up. They don't assume that anything has been dealt with. We're just looking for facts here, and we want to be complete and thorough about the doing of this. Remember that nobody else is going to see this, at all, and only one other human being is going to be involved in it at all, and that's whoever you do your 5th step with. You're not going to take what you're writing down here and go beat up people in your life with it. See, we don't have any step, that says take the truth and go slap somebody around with the truth. See, there are a lot of those kind of ideas out there in treatment land, that you need to go confront your attacker and all that kind of stuff. We don't have any steps like that in Alcoholics Anonymous. See, so you feel free to be honest about this. See, nobody else is even going to see it. As you do this, I just want to keep reminding you, what did you do at step 3? Did you make a decision to turn your will and your life over to higher power? If you did that, if you followed the directions, what do you now rely on to be thorough and honest in this step? Direction. Yeah, direction from a higher power. Stuff we all need to pray about.
Or you saying like, you're saying by getting rid of the old, saying getting rid of the Our Father who art in heaven. you saying like the third prayer and the third step? Is that what you mean by pray?
What I did when I was writing this part of my inventory, I prayed about each one of these things, that God grant me whatever courage or willingness and memory and everything I needed to be absolutely specific. See, the ruthless, brutal truth about why I'm pissed off at people and how I was affected in each case. See, and I did that before and after writing every one of them.
On page 87, the individual prayers that are used in dealing with agitation or doubtful situations are kind of set out. And one of the things that can be done with those two pages, or those sets of prayers, or ways in which to ask, is also to take those and just put the step 4 issues in it as a specific issue.
You'd like to share your experience of doing this for yourself instead of to be of service?
Yeah.
You might be interested in what Leslie's experience of this was.
I had to pray for a lot of willingness when I was writing the inventory. It was very helpful to go back and read the third step prayer often. I got in, my motives for writing this got to be kind of selfish, and for me, and the freedom that I would receive, and the things that I'd get from doing the work involved. And the third step prayer mentions those that we can help by going through this process. And when I looked at it that way and read that prayer, I could continue to write. And the prayer for the willingness just really helped. There were times when I thought it was unimportant, and I had to realize that I was making that decision in my mind that doesn't know the truth and the false. And at some point I had to trust that this process would work for me when nothing else has. One of the obstacles that got in my path were started to get some results and was trying to rely on those instead of relying on God, and it doesn't work. What Michael says about doing this as unemotionally as we possibly can was very helpful, and I had to pray again to take my emotions, being convinced that looking at the evidence in my past and being convinced that nothing else was working, and to admit that I didn't know that this was going to work, but that I had to try it, was very helpful. And staying in contact with people who have done this, because there were times I thought I was going crazy when everything was upside down and backwards, and to call and talk to somebody, it was the truth, to see the truth. When I've always thought I've known what the truth was, and it turns out I really didn't.
Great, thanks.
Sure.
I'd just like to mention once again the stuff we went through on page 64 last week. Bill compared this to taking a commercial inventory. A couple of things that happen quite commonly while these lists get made are sometimes, you put down a name and you have this reaction, whoa, I haven't thought of that person in years. Anybody have any of that? Okay. And another one is a name goes down there and you get this reaction called, I thought I dealt with that. Anybody have any of that? thought I'd dealt with that one. So what we want to do is let go of all ideas that we've ever had about, oh, I've dealt with this issue or that person or this thing. Forget everything you've done up to this point. Be thorough and honest. Go back all the way through your life when you're making this list. See, we're not going to assume that anything is dealt with.
One thing that came up for me is that I've put a bunch of different people, and I may have one person, like my father, and I have several different things several different events that involve one person. When you're doing this, do you break those individually into events or just the person?
Well then, the events, the why I'm angry, goes in column 2.
Okay, but I guess what I was saying is, when you're doing the analysis, do you just do the analysis for one person or for each particular thing that they did that pissed me off?
We'll explain it. Yeah, Dave just reminded me that, a lot of times we're mad at somebody and we can't remember their name. You remember the event, but you can't remember the person. You just write down bitch at the beach, see, or third grade teacher, see, yeah, cop in Lodi, see, whatever, if you don't remember the name. So you do remember the event, just put down something that will trigger your memory so when you get back to that particular name, see, whether you actually have the name right is really kind of insignificant.
Would it also be true that Grace Thompson, some things typically dealt with his ideas, the institutions, ideas?
Could be. Some of them don't fall neatly into one of those categories.
The first thing on the list there, all kinds of controlling an idea and certainly not an institution.
You have a good start on your people list. I put the next part of the list up here on the board, which is institutions. Most of us think of, when we hear the word institution, we think like mental institution, prison, jail, something like that, something that has 4 walls and a concrete floor and a roof and things like that. See, but institution actually has a broader definition than just that. And for purposes of making this list, institutions really covers just about anything we have been angry at that isn't a particular human being, see, which we are putting on this people list, see, and also isn't an idea or a principle, which is going to be the third part of the list. So I've got a bunch of different kinds of examples of things that commonly occur on 4th and 5th steps, see, that would be considered institutions. See, sex and TV and cops and lawyers, see, groups of people, see. So you may be mad at all cops. You got a one-size-fits-all example. You don't have to put down every single cop you were ever mad at. Say if you're mad as cops collectively. And the same with other groups of people. You may have racial prejudices and angers. That would go here. this is kind of the catch-all part of this list where you just go through your life and you write down everything to your every group of people that you've ever been angry at. Okay? Just make a list. This isn't just about big things. I had things on my inventory. Just an ongoing resentment in my life having to do with the size of a piece of cheesecake that you get in a restaurant. Anybody ever gone to a restaurant, you order dessert, cheesecake, and they bring you this little sliver, and I take a look at that and I go, that's not close to enough, and I would get angry about that. And this is just something I would get angry about over and over and over again in my life. An ongoing anger. So that doesn't seem like a big deal, but if resentment is the number one offender and it happens again and again and again, then maybe it's something I need to be honest about. So stuff as insignificant as the size of a slice of cheesecake, went on my inventory. So don't make judgments about good and bad and right and wrong and big and little and all that. Just if you're angry at it, put it down. Go all the way through your life. Anybody in here ever been mad about bar time? 25-year resentment in my life, bar time. Screw that. Bad drivers, speed limits, rude people. Going back to the people list for just a moment, anybody find that you put yourself down as a people? Okay. And if you didn't, you might consider doing that. Ask yourself, have I ever been angry at myself? And if so, I'd go down as one of the people on my people list. Rich people, poor people, welfare people, the unemployed, the homeless, Democrats, Republicans, smokers, non-smokers. Charge cards. Yeah. High interest rates. Banks. Loan companies. Bill collectors. Taxes, right? The IRS. Anybody ever had any trouble with utility companies besides me? Are you mad at utility companies? See, all that kind of stuff. Angry. I'm going to erase this up on the board. Everybody got everything off there that you want?
as well, or spiritual principles. Talk about it, down here, steps, I guess.
Principles are, the word principle is defined as a fundamental fact or a truth or a belief by which somebody lives their life. And all of us have a lot of varying kinds of principles. So I put various categories of principles up here at the top. So you're listed on this: superstitions, traditions, and fixed ideas. You might remember those out of chapter 4 when we went through the chapter to the agnostic. There are beliefs of all kind, which are religious and economic and socio-political and all that kind of stuff. Taboos, stuff you don't do. Stuff that isn't done. Stuff that your parents said and did. A lot of us pick up principles in our what's known as the dysfunctional family. So what would an example of that be? How about secrecy? And don't talk about this or that. Keep it in the family. Don't let anybody know what's going on. Don't get angry. Don't be afraid. Don't be this, don't be that. Be good. All those varying kind of things. The endless series of things that moms and dads say to kids, which in many cases you start to look at them, it might have caused you some anger. And here's a good example out of when I was a kid. My mom would catch me doing something, and I would lie about it. And then she'd start doing this thing with the finger called, I don't ever want you to lie. Honesty is the best policy. And if you ever lie to me again, I want to whip your ass, and da-da-da-da. So he's going on and on about not lying and being honest and just, yelling and screaming. And while she's in the middle of doing that, the phone rings. She says, get the phone, and if it's for me, tell him I'm not here. See? You ever have stuff like that go on, see, when you're a kid? See, these double messages, all kinds of weird things, see, that go on in families and get passed on. See, I'm going to give you something to cry about. See? Don't sass, don't talk back, put on your thinking cap, don't have a mind of your own. Because I said so, see, you're too young to understand, it's not for you to know, sit down and shut up, clean your plate, see, on and on and on. Any of those things ever piss you off when you were a kid? See, did you ever get angry about it? See, what are those? See, those are principles or ideas. Okay? Yeah, you had a question?
One of my mother's favorites to this day is pulling yourself up by your bootstraps.
Right. Yeah, there's a good one. You can do it. See, the endless number of cliches and messages that come our way that you got power over what's going on, you're not really powerless. You can change it, you can fix it. See, those things, we believe them. See, we keep butting our head against the wall, trying to change it, trying to fix it. See, has that ever caused you any anger? Say if so, it goes on here. Okay, any cliches? Everybody know what a cliche is? That's something that maybe started out as a wise sort of a thing and turned trite after repeated use and misuse. And there's lots of AA cliches. Any of those ever make you angry? Ever find yourself all screwed up and have somebody in AA say, well, you're right where you're supposed to be? Piss you off? This too shall pass? Stuff like that. Keep coming back. Easy does it. See, all those kind of things, it's just cliches. They ever make you angry? If so, they would go down here. See, old sayings. Anybody have a grandma or a mom or a dad or something like that who just lives by old sayings? Well, a stitch in time saves 9. You can't make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. See, all that kind of stuff. You're a bad penny. This kind of stuff. See, ever make you angry? See, if so, that would go down here. See, here's some examples of some of them. What's an example of a superstition? Anybody know? Yeah, walking under a ladder. Black cats. Spilling salt, breaking mirrors, opening umbrellas inside. Okay. Friday the 13th. See, ever make you angry? You ever have a friend who was really into that? You ever get pissed off at him about it? Astrology, that kind of stuff. Fortune telling. Spiritualism, any of those kind of things, all kind of like come under the category of superstition. Traditions, all families have traditions. There are a lot of things that are traditions. AA is full of traditional things. We've got these 12 traditions, but AA has a lot of traditions. See, saying the Lord's Prayer at the end of an AA meeting, see, it's simply something that has become traditional in AA. There's no requirement that happen. See, and some of you may have been pissed off about that. See, I've met a lot of people in AA who don't like the fact that we pray at the beginning and the end of meetings. See, they think that might turn off newcomers. See, but it's just a traditional kind of thing. It happens in AA. There isn't any rule that says it has to be that way. See, so there are many kinds of traditions. One of the ones that came up on my inventory is something that had pissed me off for years. It was a tradition in my family to make turkey stuffing the way my mom did, and she did it because her mom did that, and her mom did that because her mom did that. See, and in our family, it had to be done that way. And it couldn't be done any other way. And if anybody deviated, see, from the tradition of making the turkey stuffing that particular way, see, then a whole group of people who all have my last name would sit there and bitch and complain and, see, this is terrible. I mean, this is not a real Thanksgiving dinner, and all this stuff. See, and as that would go on, I would sit there, see, with my wine or my beer or my drink, and these people, man, God damn. See, and this anger and rage would come up in me over something as simple as turkey stuffing. See, stuff like that ever make you mad?
Was it any good?
Yeah, it's pretty good turkey stuffing, but there's a lot of other kinds of turkey stuffing that are pretty good, too.
Well, that comes from stuffing your feelings.
See, so there's a lot to this. See, a lot of us are not aware of how much anger we really carry around simply based on the beliefs, see, and the things that other people believe and their points of view, and stuff we got stuck with and don't seem to be able to get rid of in our lives. See? So you might take a good look at this. See? It takes some strenuous effort. Okay, now Fred had a comment about this. Why don't you just share your experience with me? Yeah.
Well, just, a week or two ago, Mike was going over all the steps and talking about how these were spiritual principles, with many shortcomings and service to others, and the concept of powerlessness, and just all the different steps. And that, the more I thought about that, I thought, well, doing my list of resentments or principles, I better sure as hell put those down on my list, because if I cannot come to terms with my resentments towards these principles, and these are the very things that are going to save my life, and me hopefully to have an experience of God in my life, which will give me recovery, so that I can be of service to other people, that I sure as hell better put these steps down here as principles. Get real straight about those, because those are like life-saving things. If there's any principles, to me, and this is not being judgmental, but let's take Big Boys Don't Cry. That's a nice principle, but that may or may not save my life. I don't come real clear on the 12 steps and how I feel about those principles. Those may or may not save my life. So to me, those are more important. Is that
Great. Thanks. It's a good point. A lot of us do resent, say, what we find in the steps.
Yeah, I'm angry at the principle of no matter how glaring your character defects are, I have to see where I'm behind. I was angry at that.
Right? Okay. Does that make sense to anybody else? Okay. Just anger at the principles as embodied by the steps. Powerlessness, personal inventory, discussion of it with others, amends, service, prayer and meditation, unselfishness as opposed to selfishness, stuff like that. Does it make you angry? If so, just be honest about it. See, that would go down.
It's honestly reflected in how it works, because the 12 steps are sandwiched between, some of these we walked and we said, my God, what a word.
Yeah, I can understand that.
The 12 steps are sandwiched between two slices of non-performance.
See, one of my resentments about this was the feeling that the steps and the information in the book had boxed me into a corner, and see, into a place where there wasn't any choice. Anybody been mad about that? See, I just hit this place where I said, well, if I had a choice to do this, I'd choose to do it. See, but this leaves me no choice, and I was pissed. Yeah. See, I didn't like being in this place that didn't have an exit sign on it. See, except by walking down the path of the steps. See, so that was one of my resentments. That was just my pride going, I don't want to do that.
There's one called, do not go enter into this good night, rage against the dying of the light.
One of the principles, literally, by which all this works is called action. Anybody mad about that? See, I have to take action. See, and nothing happens until I take action. That piss anybody off? Piss me off. See, I'm an alcoholic, and anytime I feel like I'm being forced to do something, see, both guns come out. All this. See? But I couldn't see the enemy at that point, see, because the enemy was in here.
Wants to shoot out a cookie corral.
mentioned about this thing where, people hit the hurdle.
One thing you're going to run into a lot in working these steps and doing your own inventory is basically it's a lot of the feelings you had before you came to Alcoholics Anonymous that I'm the only one, I'm weird, I'm totally defective, no one else is having a problem with this, why is everybody else getting it done and I'm not getting it done? What's wrong with me? Why can't I be honest with myself? And just huge amounts of self-doubt coming up. And it's good to share those feelings with people who are doing it, okay? Because otherwise you end up boxing yourself in. A number of occasions people have come and talked about how they quit doing the steps or started balking or ran into a hurdle that they thought they couldn't get over because it made them feel so totally awful or totally weird or just, I can't face that. And it's really important to understand that we all hit those. We all hit those hurdles. We all hit those problems. We all have to deal with our terrors as we work these steps. We all have doubts as to the third step. We all have doubts as to the second step. We all have doubts as to the first step. And these things are part and parcel of the program. It's not a light switch. No one can walk in and go, blip, you've got honesty, you've got faith, you've got humility. It doesn't happen that way. Between point A and point B is a long way. 12 steps are a significant amount of change. And nothing is going to substitute doing the work yourself. You can dance around it all you want, but you have to actually sit down and do the work. And you have to voice those fears and get past them. And it doesn't stop at 1, it doesn't stop at 2, it doesn't stop at 3, it doesn't stop at 4, it doesn't stop at 5. It doesn't stop at 6. All those things are there and we all feel them. We need to deal with it and get around it. Now there's one thought that came to my mind this morning, and that is that as we're doing these, as we hit each one, we talk about how hard it is and how much work it is. But I've never had anyone say, boy, I'm sorry I did this. Boy, I'm sorry I did the steps. Boy, I'm sorry I did an inventory. And talking with Michael, he says he's never had anyone say that either. And how many things in our life can we be that sure of? How many things can you go to people and say, well, if you went to a person and said, I took this psychological vein or I took this religious vein, but later on I found out it was bunk. How many people say, I took the steps and found out they were bull? So, very good testimony to the need to do the work. Is that?
Yeah, great, thanks. That makes sense to see, I asked Dave to share that because a lot of us do get stuck. And see, my own experience of the stuck stuff that happened is that I would then go immediately to my head and start trying to figure it out, wonder, and you get all this self-doubt, self-pity and all that. It's one of the best reasons, see, why if you're going to really take these steps, see, have somebody, see, who is either doing it or has done it, your sponsor or another friend in AA, see, somebody you can talk to, see, about especially the stucknesses that you come across, see, and just be honest about, I'm stuck here, this isn't making sense, da-da-da-da, see, instead of beating yourself over the head, see, with some kind of a golf club, see, I'm such an idiot, everybody else got it, I saw them nodding their heads in the meeting, their inventories are written and mine isn't, and I'm still full of doubt, and see, all that kind of stuff. See, that just makes it worse. See, so if you're a kind of a loner sort of a person and all that, see if you can find, somebody else, somebody in this room or someone else in AA, who is, willing to talk to you about where you get stuck and the difficulties you have, and where you can talk honestly about it. You don't have to feel like a fool. See, this is news to all of us as we go through the process. The things we face are new, the problems that come up are new. See, and nobody's ever done this before. So if we'd already done it, we wouldn't be here. Okay? So if we're doing new things, we're going to have new feelings, new problems. See, that's one of the benefits of the fellowship in AA, is to work with somebody who's either doing it or has done it. See, so you don't have to beat yourself up and feel like a fool or any of that kind of stuff.
Yes, I was going to say, thanks, Dave, because I just added doubt and uncertainty to my principles. But along the lines of what I said earlier, when I've come around to Michael's study and he starts out with Appendix 2, spiritual strengths on 570, and in addition to the 12 steps being crucial things for me to look at my resentments towards this, the thing here talks about willingness, honesty, and open-mindedness, and those are three. I definitely have some minutes about it. You know, the only
Go ahead, John.
How is this, we're stuck on doing this stuff. Because I know this stuff just comes pretty fast. And if we get with one or two others that may be stuck like I'm stuck, and just say, okay, it's Tuesday night, we don't have anything else planned. Or this is paramount. So we're going to get together after a meeting or whatever, and we're just going to read a couple paragraphs here and just be quiet at the end of the table or whatever. Has that been done?
I've not heard of that specifically, but I got no problem with it. See, that seems like a solution to getting unstuck. Great. It's always, remember, when we took step 3, what were we actually asking? We were actually asking God, to change us enough that we could be of service to others. Does that seem true to everybody? See, the way the prayer was written and the way, this whole thing was presented. See, so if you can get the idea that, if you're having a problem with any or all of the steps, something you don't understand, you're not clear about, whatever, do you think that your problem with it might be of service to somebody else? See? Could you be of service to somebody else simply by letting them help you with your problem? See? Could your problem, be of service to another alcoholic, who's on the path trying to recover? See, if you simply present your problem to them and see if they can share some experience, which will help you get unstuck. See? So in that sense, you are working with others. See, even though you're the one with the problem. See, and you might not realize, but the person that you're asking, who may have been through what you're through, might be stuck too. See, and the very thing that's going to get them unstuck, is the opportunity to be of service to you. See, and that's what, everybody wins at that point. See, it's where we get into this, kind of self-centered thing that's ever growing, you know what I'm talking about? You get the problem, you go to your heads, this stuff starts going on, you beat yourself up, figure it out, but you're not talking to anybody else about it. Okay, so there's an awful lot of value, in sharing what's going on with you as you go through this, down to the gnat's ass, with other people. Work with other people as you do this. Does that make sense? And realize, that you are being of service to the other people when you do that. Give them your problem. Let them see if they can help you. They may have been through it, 2 hours before, or 2 days, or 2 weeks before that. It might be just the thing that they need, to get unstuck themselves. Who had their hand up?
A wonderful suggestion to me on these is to pray as you sit down for each of these sessions for willingness, honesty, and open-mindedness. Open-mindedness is a closed-mindedness or letting go of old ideas absolutely. Almost amounts to the status of a Zen cone for me. I can't figure out how to let go of an old idea absolutely. And there is something cone-like about that phrase. And first of all, asking for willingness, honesty, and open-mindedness. in prayer when you commence your session, working on step 4 or on step 3 is very helpful. Secondly, step 3 was done in Socorro by some people sitting at opposite ends of the table. And because the word ultimately appears in there, or not ultimately, but utterly in the big book, that decision is made utterly. It is a 100% decision.
Right? So we are going to consider that. So in order to continue looking at what the book says, we now need to mentally assume that we've completed it. All right? So just imagine how big your stack of paper is at this point, having done all that. So when we were finished, we considered it how? Careful. The first thing apparent, see, was that we've been wrong all of our lives, and everybody who told us we were screwed up is right. See? And oh shit, now we got to go apologize. You know, they did the best they could, and see, we were so bad. Is that the first thing apparent? No. The first thing apparent is what? That this world and its people were often, what does often mean? Quite wrong. Okay, see, and if we have been thorough and honest, see, that's what we're going to find. See, so this, to read that sentence made me feel much better and gave me quite a sense of relief, because I had an unconscious kind of an assumption about this inventory, that if I took my inventory and admitted where I was wrong, it was going to make all of you guys and everybody in my life right. And I was unwilling for that to be the case. Suddenly you are all right. My folks are right. My ex-wife is right. They're all right. And I'm wrong. Ah, shit. See, that was my attitude. See, now, if we're honest about this, first thing we're going to find is that this world and its people are often what? Quite wrong. Okay, see, so we're not here to make other people right. See, and this especially applies to a lot of this really devastating kind of stuff that happens to people when they're kids, having to do with molestations and incest and physical abuse and getting beat up, getting abandoned, and all that sort of stuff. You know, that's very common on fifth steps. Okay, see, we're not here to say that the people who did it to you, see, when you were small or as you grew up, are right. Okay, first thing apparent, see, is that the world and its people were often quite wrong. See, so if what they did to you, see, that harmed you or hurt you or threatened you or did whatever it did to you, see, we're not here to make them right or to say that's okay. Or that isn't it, you know, we'll let them off the hook or any of that. See, we're just going to be honest about it. See, what did they do? All right? It's either right or it's wrong. We're going to face the facts, whatever they are. Okay, next sentence, to conclude. The word conclude means a final determination. To conclude that others were wrong was as far as most of us ever got. Okay, well, let's go look. Go back to page 65. Okay, take your hand or a piece of paper or something and cover up column 3. Okay, now, what do you see? Column 1, column 2. See, and here's where most of us live our lives. See, here I am, I'm sitting somewhere and I'm steamed and I'm pissed off and I'm mad at the world, and you walk into my life and you say, hey, Mike, how come you're so pissed off? See, and I start telling you column 1, column 2. I'm mad at Mr. Brown. This guy's been porking my wife, and he, you know, knocked me off about the mistress, and, you know, this guy may get my job. That's not the only reason I'm mad. There's this lady next door, Mrs. Jones, and she intervened on her old man, and fuck him, and see, all this. See, and when you ask me why I'm angry, that's what I always tell you. See, who I'm mad at and what they did or what they are doing. See? And that's as far as I have ever gotten in my whole life. See? I keep singing this same song, see, about who people are, what kind of jerks they are, and what they do. See? And I've lived my whole life in column 1, column 2, so I concluded, see, all my life, see, that was the cause of my anger. Does that make sense to you? Now, have you lived your life like that? See? Do you hear that kind of stuff going on in the AA groups that you go to? Who we're mad at and what's wrong with them and doggone them and see, on and on and on. See, and we stop right there. Never go any further than that. See, it's not my fault. Okay, so go back to page 66. See, so it says, to conclude that others were wrong was as far, see, as most of us ever got. Well, that's literally the truth in my life. Okay? Now, the usual outcome, see, what does outcome mean? What happened as a result of that? So the usual outcome, see, was that people continued to wrong us, and we stayed sore. Sore means what? Angry and resentful. Okay? See, the same stuff keeps happening. All right, so let's take our mentally completed 3-column inventory. All those pieces of paper that you've now completed, all the anger of the people, institutions, and principles. So you take all those pieces of paper and scotch tape them together in your mind so that they are one long scroll-like thing. See, how long would your scroll-like thing be? 6 feet, 22 feet? Okay, see, and what can you see? Well, you start at the beginning, see, and you just keep going like this, and what you can see, see, is that this has just gone on all my life. See, this has never stopped. Here's the truth about my life. See, I have concluded always, see, that people were wrong in what they did. That's as far as I ever got, and what happened as a result of it. Here it's going on. See, so I have now written all that down. I can see that very plainly. See, that's my life up to this point. See, and now that I can see that, I begin to get clear, see, that if something is not done about the cause of this, see, then what have I written? Not only my past, but my what? See, I now have my future in front of me too. See? And if this is my future, what are my chances of staying sober? See? Resentment is the number one offender. Okay, does that make sense to you? See? So I can no longer conclude that others are wrong. I'm going to have to find out what's going on here. Okay? So the usual outcome was that people continued to wrong us, and we stayed sore. So have you stayed sore? Are you beginning to see things on that grudge list, on that 3-column inventory you've been mad about all your life? Okay? Have you stayed sore? Regardless of whatever books you read, discussions you've had, new philosophies, see, drunk, sober, whatever, have you stayed sore? See, has it ever gone away? Have you ever gotten freedom? Okay, but the more we fought and tried to have our own way, what happened? The worse matters got. Does that seem true in your life? Okay? The more you try to fix it yourself and solve it and all that kind of stuff, does it just get worse and not better? Does that seem true when you're sober as well as when you're drunk? Okay? When you're clean instead of when you're using? Okay? The more we fought and tried to have our own way, the worse matters got. As in war, the victor only themed, italics, themed to win. Good example of that. Everybody remember 1945? Who surrendered to us? Japan. Who won? As in war, the victor only seemed to win. Our moments of triumph were short-lived. Anybody else in here besides me live by a principle called gotcha? I gotcha, you son of a bitch, that kind of stuff. You ever notice how the gotchas in life only last about 8 minutes? and then what happens? See, right back in the same old collision and crap and misery and all that. See, so have your moments of triumph in life been short-lived? See, is that true about you? Okay, so it is plain. The word plain means what? Clear and evident. See, there's evidence. We now have it in front of us. It is plain that a life, whose life are we talking about at this point? Each of us individually. See, it is plain that a life which includes what? Deep resentment. Okay, well, you've got your 3-column inventory started and you got your grudge list made. Do you see any deep resentment in your life? What do you see? That a life which includes deep resentment leads only to what? Page 52. Anybody remember page 52? Trouble with personal relationships, prey to misery and depression, unhappy, full of fear, can't seem to help anybody, can't make a living. See, all that stuff. Have you found that just putting the plug in the jug has not solved any of those problems? The resentments are still there. All of that stuff is still there. Okay, to the precise extent that we permit these, what does the word these mean? Deep resentments. See, do we squander? Everybody know what squander means? Yeah, throw away or waste. The hours that might have been worthwhile. But with the alcoholic, how many alcoholics are in here? Put your name right there. For the alcoholic, whose hope is the maintenance and growth of a spiritual experience? Take your own inventory on that particular statement. Is that your hope? Are you hoping for something else? I know lots of people in AA hoping for a lot of other things other than the maintenance and growth of a spiritual experience. I hope I get a house. I hope I get laid. Great. No problem.
It's like, a lot of things that, I couldn't have anything to do with this. Somebody that, whatever, I don't know how to explain it, but if I sense that it's suspected a sex relation with his grandfather, and I had very little to do with that, then that's whatever that situation.
Yeah, column 3 isn't like a Chinese menu. You take just one or two or all that. So you may find, as Charlie just mentioned, and the same thing happened to me, that all 7 of those things are affected. See, at any given time, almost all of my resentments, all 7 of them were affected. Nope, just follow the directions right there. All you do is, you take an honest look, did it affect my pride? If it did, write down pride. Affected your self-esteem, write down self-esteem, without any other explanation or details. The details of that kind of stuff is going to start showing up in column 4. Okay. Now what we do is you have this list of people, institutions, and principles. You take one name at a time, going down the list, and you put it in column 1, which is I'm resentful at. Then you fill out the cause, and then you do column 3. And then you go get the next name, do the same thing. When you run out of names, then you do the same thing with the institution. And when you're done with the institutions, you do the same thing with the principles. So you go through the entire list that you made last week. So you're doing this 3-column thing. Now, when you do that, they just write on the front of the paper. Okay, like this, and leave the back blank. Because there's the 4th column, and we're going to get to that. So when you're doing the 3-column inventory, just do 3 columns on the front, leaving the backs blank. Okay, and that's where the 4th column will go. Okay, everybody clear about that up to this point? First we make this list of everything we're angry at, people, institutions, and principles. Once that list is done, then we do this 3-column inventory, one at a time, things off of that list. Okay, everybody got it? Okay, now, take a look at the paper you just did person number 1 and number 2 on. And compare that with page 65. Does your 3-column inventory look like, exactly like, that 3-column inventory you see on page 65? Do you have 3 columns on your piece of paper? Is there a name in column number 1, facts in column number 2, and those some or all of those 7 items in column number 3? Because that's how it works. Don't do it some other way. Do it the way you see on page 65. Okay, let's go to page 65 down at the last 3 lines under the example. Where it says, we went back through our lives, what does that mean? How far? It doesn't say we went back to when we started drinking. It doesn't say we went back to, some traumatic event in childhood that a shrink told us was the cause of our problem. It says we went back to our lives. That means all the way back to our life as far as we can remember. Okay, next sentence. Let's read it together. Nothing counted thoroughness and honesty. And remember we talked about rolling the dice, okay, at this thing? Shades of the truth, sort of the facts, a couple of the facts, see, all that kind of stuff. See, is that going to work? See, our half measure is going to work here? Probably not. See, what happens to everything south of a lie? Everything south of the lie is going to be what? A lie. See, everything south of dishonesty is going to be what? Dishonest. Okay, so let's say we're going along in our inventory, see, and we don't want to write down exactly why we're mad at whoever this one person is. Okay, so we write something else or nothing at all, and we move on. What's going to happen from then on? Everything from then on is dishonest, see, because we just were dishonest. What do half measures get us? Zip. See, so if you find yourself going through your inventory and getting stuck, see, you might go back and see if you have been thoroughly honest in the columns, in what you're writing. Okay, if you find yourself running out of gas and not able to continue, and I don't know what's going on, and fuck this, and all that sort of stuff, go back and see if you've been honest. See, the cause of the stuckness might be, somewhere along the line, that you either withheld something or you weren't honest with yourself about it. See, something you didn't want to face or something you didn't want to write down. Okay, so we went back through our lives. Nothing counted but thoroughness and honesty. See, so do straight lines count? Good spelling, does that count? Neatness and originality? Details? See, none of that counts? See, 700 pages, does that count? See, none of that counts. See, the only thing that counts is thorough and honest. So what are the 2 things that you always need to test, see, as you're going through this? Am I being thorough? Am I being honest? And my suggestion is that you just take that test and you apply it to every item that you write. Is this thorough and is it honest? Not is it long, involved, and complicated. Not is it deeply psychological. Not is it reasonable. Not is it should I be that way. See, is it thorough? Is it honest? So we went back through our lives. Nothing counted but thoroughness and honesty. When we were finished, we considered it carefully. What does the word "it" in that sentence refer to? Right, the completed 3-column inventory, see, which now contains all of the people, all of the institutions, and all of the principles. Okay, so if you have completed that, don't you think you'd have a number of pieces of paper with 3 columns filled out now? So you might have 20 or 30, you might have 150, you might have 300. See, whatever is thorough and honest in your life. It's not the same for everybody. But at that point, see, you would have a lot of 3-column things down there. I hope I get a better job. I hope it doesn't rain today. I hope people like me. I hope people approve of me and my program. I hope I stay sober. I hope I make a friend. I hope I dump the bitch. I hope this. I hope that. Hope in everything except for the solution. So you might take an honest look at what you're hoping for. It says, with the alcoholic, are you one whose hope is the maintenance and growth of what? Spiritual experience. Is that true about you? It's true about me. See, this business of resentment is what? So does it sound to you like, anger is justifiable and that there are healthy kinds of anger and resentment? See, what does infinite and grave mean? Infinitely grave. Yeah. See, yeah. Infinite means without limits. Grave means deadly or fatal. See, bare minimum, RFS, real fucking serious. Okay. See, so that's either true or it's false. See, so anger and resentment, they're either justifiable or they're not. See, but this whole discussion on resentment started out with a sentence that resentment is the number 1 offender, and the next sentence was it destroys more alcoholics than anything else. And I really do not know a whole lot of people in Alcoholics Anonymous who believe that. So it's something you might look at. This business of resentment is infinitely grave. Okay, let's all read the next sentence. We found that it is fatal. See, so who's the we in the sentence? Yeah. Are you including yourself in the we there? Do you know that? Are you clear about that? Right, are you beginning to get the idea that unless something is done, unless there's a solution to this, relapse is certain? See? In whose life? Yours? As well as mine? Any other alcoholic? We found that it is fatal. Nah, it's healthy. I can just discuss it. Right. Okay, now they're going to show us the mechanism by which a resentment will get a real alcoholic drunk again. See, so you might want to write this little puppy down. We've got this hopeless state of mind and body that exists in the alcoholic. The alcoholic needs to have a what kind of experience in order to solve the problem? Spiritual experience. Okay, now in chapter 4 we found out where the experience occurs. Is it a mental thing? Or does it occur deep down in? Deep down in. See, so that would be here. See, not in the mind. Okay, so we'll say that deep down within us, see, here's an experience of God. When the alcoholic has that experience going on, how's their mind able to operate? Page 20, a constant thought of who? Others. And how we may help meet their needs, and that's what we learned was altruism. Okay, so here's the alcoholic running around, say, being of service and happy, joyous, and free, and all this kind of stuff. But something occurs. He gets mad at his wife or husband or whatever we get mad at. Okay, and where does this anger occur? So let's look at the words precisely. It says, for when harboring such what? Okay, now notice it doesn't say when harboring such thinking. See, so do your feelings go on in your mind or do they go on somewhere else? Feelings go on deep down in, right? What does the word harbor mean?
Save, hide.
Yeah, to give, literally to give shelter to something, see, or it could be nurtured or hug it or whatever. So when harboring such feelings, so if the alcoholic is going to be harboring feelings of resentment and anger, see, is that going to be here or here? See, it's deep down in, see, but that's where we're supposed to have a spiritual experience going on. See, but, so here we are harboring something called anger. See, what happens as soon as the alcoholic harbors the anger? What happened to God? Gone. Okay, when harboring such feelings, what happens? Read the next part of the sentence. Sunlight spirit. Okay, God's gone. Okay, cool. Now, once God's gone, see, what happens up here? Now, anger is the experience of the alcoholic. What happens in the mind? We go up here, see, instead of a constant thought of others and how we may help meet their needs, this kind of stuff begins to occur. The thinking changes. See? And it becomes self-centered. See? And resentment. What anger do we have and why do we have it? How are we affected by it? Get rid of all the other sorts of ideas that come about as a result of these. Everybody got number one done in terms of the cause, the facts, and causes. Now go to column 3. Looking at the facts in column 2, ask yourself, what in me has been affected by that stuff in column 2? It affects my self-esteem and my pride, my fear, gets away of my ambition, in any way whatsoever. Makes me feel insecure. Prevent me from getting laid. Sexual relations. It ought to be pretty clear to most of us that, a lot of people in AA, got molested when they were kids. I did. It's a very common thing. Ask yourself, that affects your sex relations? Affects your personal relations with other people? Afraid of men, afraid of women? Afraid of intimacy? That affects your security? All that kind of stuff. It's taken on its look. This is not weird or voodoo or any of that. Nothing deeply psychological about it. Just what are the facts? Yeah, it affected me. You carried it through your life, you carried it through your life. Okay, still got it. Yeah. It's the facts today. That's what we're looking at. It's an inventory of today. What's going on now? Go along, you might find that there are some people that you're really pissed off about, and you might hit a thing that I hit on a couple of them, is I don't want to stop being pissed off with these people. I'm not willing to do that. So what do you got to do at that time? Yeah, you got to be honest. Yeah, well, that's the truth, and I can't stay in this position for now, so I'm going to have to pray for some willingness to be free of this resentment against this person. A lot of times, some of these lifelong things, to be free of the resentment, really screws up our whole house of cards and the way we look at the world. Okay? So that might cause you some more fear. Okay, so you're willing to have that removed. Do you have any questions? Goes right there. Column 2 on that person? The death is not the issue. It's what they did before they died that made you mad, that's the issue. That's what's put here. No, unless their death picks you up. Then that would be one more fact in the column. Well, if their death pissed you off, how would you be affected by that? I can give you a couple of examples. My grandmother died when I was 14, something like that. I didn't get sober until I was 38. I didn't do this until I was 38. And so there I am, angry at a dead woman for, almost 20 years. A little over 20 years. And so, her death was one of the things that went in column 2, but it's just one of the things. There were a bunch of other causes, the way she treated me and her attitude and all that sort of stuff. So all the other causes, there were definitely effects. And then her death itself, that affected my pride and my self-esteem. Couldn't get even with her anymore. Okay? And now I felt guilty because I hated her. Okay? And that pissed me off. I have never been interested in forgiving people and making amends. Living or dead, they made me mad. So that's all you need to do is just look. First you put down the facts, each of the facts, and you look and say, how did that fact affect me?
Dave and I were talking about how this is different for everybody. I had a sister that was killed, and it affected my local community. My husband had affected self-esteem on his side. But, here my sister was here one day and then gone the next, and that was like, what's going on? So my security was really affected by that.
Also come up with a lot of angry at somebody that's dead simply because they're not there for you to do your ministry. And if you've got some of the play on it, you'll find that God will put other people in your life to give you ministry for that reason. Some others in your life who need the same kind of help or understanding and support that you would have been giving that person had they still been alive.
It's good that the whole subject of these dead people comes up, because a lot of us have, people who have died in our life, and just mad at them for various reasons. Okay, so, one of the problems, particularly people who've read a lot of psychology and psychiatry and all that, you might have begun to get the idea that everything fits neatly into categories, psychologically and psychiatrically and mentally and all that. And that's very seldom the truth, especially when we're talking about our alcoholism. So we're all trying to find the widgets in our warehouse. What are the facts about the widgets in my warehouse, not what are the facts according to Sigmund Freud, or Carl Jung, or Art Sponsor, or somebody else in AA, or anybody else. What are the facts in your warehouse? So don't want to assume that anything is dealt with. Rely on old ideas and somebody else's facts or experience. Seems pretty clear to all of us that nobody was there living your life except you. Nobody went through the circumstances you went through except you. Put all the right your inventory. And if the facts turn out to seem kind of weird to you, it's great. Have weird facts. No problem. Everybody got column 1, 2, and 3 on person number 1? Okay, get person number 2. Put them in column 1. And what is the cause of your anger at that person? Why are you resentful of them? Yeah. See me at 3. Anybody noticing that while you're writing column number 2, some stuff comes up? Getting any feelings, emotions, stuff going on when you write down about that? Okay, see, just notice that comes up. That's a good sign. See, that's part of facing our inventory. See, notice that when you're writing column 2, you're being honest, see, these feelings start to happen, emotions, whatever. It could be pain, and it could be fear, and it could be anger, and it could be sadness, and it could be loss, and it could be depression, and it could be anything. See? And literally, see, that stuff that comes up when you write this, that is your inventory. See? Because that's what's inside of it. See? That's the house cleaning that needs to go on. See? And that is how we go through this house cleaning. See, it's the beginning of the process. That stuff starts to pop up. See? So what do? Just rely on God's faith and keep going. So if you get some weird thinking that happens and some weird feelings that you never felt before that happen, it's all a good sign. Just rely on God and keep going. See, that's what's supposed to happen. There's not a trip to Disneyland that we're talking about here. I don't know if I gave you guys the example of see what happens when you cut a lemon in half. You squeeze it, what comes out of it? Why doesn't honey come out of it when you squeeze half a lemon? Because it's a lemon, right? And it's got lemon juice in it. Right? So here you are writing your inventory saying, what if a bunch of shit comes up? Say, why does a bunch of shit come up? Why doesn't joy come up? Because there ain't joy there. There's all this crap. Yeah, see, so just be willing to have the crap come up. All right. If you're being honest, that's what you'll find. So everybody finds, and they write their inventory honestly. There's a bunch of crap in here. It's got a bunch of different labels and names and feelings to it. So what? Let it happen. Keep writing. Trust God, clean out. I never met anybody who did follow these directions, did it thoroughly and honestly, and found a little child for them. Everybody I've ever seen actually do this, they find a bunch of crap. Great. You want to face your own crap. That's what we're cleaning out here. Huh? A good thing? Great, put them down. It's a good question. Sometimes we say, well, I shouldn't be mad at this person because they're so nice, and they, everybody think I'm such a terrible person if I shouldn't, how could anybody be angry at that person? Get rid of those kind of ideas. Okay? All we're looking for is the facts. Okay? And, there have been some very good people doing very good things that I have been very pissed off at in my life. Okay? Now, I shouldn't, and it's bad, and who cares? Okay? Was there anger there? If so, why? They're the facts.
looking at these things and thinking about facing them like this, it seemed like a monumental task to try and face some of the feelings that come up when you're dealing with all that. But there's one reality about it all, is whether you choose to face it or not, it's still there. Nothing gets invented in this process. If you uncover stuff, it's been there and functional in your life. It's just you wouldn't look at it like this. So you have the choice of looking at it and being rid of it, or leaving it there to continue to run it.
Are you sitting there? Are you breathing?
Well,
Are you thinking? Are you
the
aware?
depth that
Conscious?
you look at may just be slowly clear, may not be good. Survive today.
For a lot of us, there's a lot of fear in taking a look at this stuff. And just look at it logically. This is not an inventory of the future. It's an inventory of what? Past, up to the present moment. Okay? And ask yourself, am I alive and sitting in this chair right now? Okay? Am I thinking and am I conscious, or am I dead? So if you're alive, then it's logical that you aren't going to find anything at all on this inventory that can or will kill you, because you've already lived through it, all of it. Go back and reiterate again one of the things that Dave just said a couple minutes ago. You get the idea, because we can't tell the truth and the false, that if this stuff comes out, it'll kill us. But that's a false thought. If it stays in, that's how it kills us. People who don't clean their house, they are the ones that relapse. They are the ones that die of their alcoholism. People who clean their house seem to recover and get free. So it's just the opposite of what our fear tells us in many cases. My mind told me that, if I did this inventory that I'm going to live in pain forever. Anybody got that kind of thinking going on? but the fact was, see, that I was doomed to live in pain forever if I didn't do this. So it's my fear of taking things and turning them around and telling me that false things are true again.
Another variant of that is that you would go and saying they're crazy from having faith in them. The short reply to that is that it can't be the antithesis and know it at all.
Everybody got person number 2 in the cause down? So we'll call them 3 then. How were you affected by it? What's in the cause column? No, we just want to stick to the facts.